Alright, this message is to everybody that's sick and tired of eating poison. Now, there's a variety of ways that you can go about fighting the government control over your food, which has been proven irresponsible. And here's several reasons why. For example, if you Google Bt toxin, it comes up with the match that it's a genetic modification done to plants to produce its own pesticide. And if you look carefully enough, you can even find studies that relate to Bt toxin being found in people's bloodstreams. Now, why is this significant? Well, it might be significant because Monsanto has a veritable monopoly over seed production, and so their genes are found quite commonly in plants. And studies have also shown that their genetic insertions can jump the species barrier. It's also shown that it's difficult to keep those plants contained, that they can spread well beyond the original area in which they were planted, such as studies relating to genetically modified canola and corn. There's studies relating to genetically modified corn wiping out entire heritage crops, and signs of those genes being expressed inside the heritage crops. Truth be told, Monsanto genes are notoriously aggressive, and they were designed to be this way because they're interested in nature running its course and infecting a farmer's crop with this genetic code, which they hold a patent for, so that they can assume control over your food. Now, what we have to do to fight this sort of thing is we have to start growing our own food. Even if it's just a little bit, even if it's just herbs. Do you see what they charge for herbs at the grocery store? It's ridiculous. Even if it's just tobacco. Are you a smoker? One of the 25% of people in Canada alone that smoke and pay up the ass for cigarettes, $10 a pack. In some places as high as $14 a pack. The tobacco you get is inferior quality. It's covered in pesticides, and you end up smoking those pesticides. I'm sure that's not too healthy. They add things like ammonia. They grind up the stalk and any unusable portion of the plant and turn it into filler. There's so many different things that they've done to like your tobacco that by the time you end up getting it, you're smoking nothing but a chemical cocktail. Good quality organic tobacco is what the smoker ought to be seeking. I mean, you're paying up the ass for these cigarettes. They should be top quality, not substandard garbage like they are. So that I think I have a problem with. Now, the other thing too is for those of you out there who have made their own wine and made their own beer, I can tell you for a fact that as somebody that's done that, when I made my own beer, it tasted amazing when it was fresh. By the time you end up buying your beer, more often than not, from the local distribution outlets that they have, whether it's a variety store, or the beer store, or whatever it is, or like a liquor store, an LCBO or something, doesn't matter what it is. By the time the product gets to you, it's extremely old. And so, I mean, like just the basic enjoyment of like being able to get something fresh and that isn't stale is kind of disappearing. I mean, sure, there's a lot of you brew it yourself places, but I think what people ought to do is make it. You know, it costs you maybe $20 in materials to come up with the mash that you're brewing for, like, let's say distilled liquors, for wine or beer, any of those three things, and basically there's almost nothing to it. For what you're paying for a tiny 1 liter bottle, I'm producing 30 liters. The difference is phenomenal, and there is no justification for it other than the fact that you're being scammed. So here's a bit of a tour as to what you can do if you set your minds to it. Now, the one thing that I primarily wanted out of this video was to address that there are people out there who will say, oh, I live in an apartment and I can't really do anything. And, well, okay, if you're in a basement apartment, you can always get a ballast. You should look up the energy efficient ones out there, which are high pressure sodium and metal hydride ballast, digital ballast. So you can use any light bulb with it. You get a higher light output. You can hook it up to a microcontroller and manage lighting cycles. If you need a microcontroller that's easy to program, I suggest picking up an Arduino. Now, here's what I have here. This is actually the tube that's going to upgrade my irrigation system. I've kind of like glued the end off with steel epoxy. It might actually be better using marine glue, but the steel epoxy seems to be holding nice and fine. So that's one end there. I'm actually going to do the rest with the steel epoxy and then marine glue over it just to get a nice seal. It doesn't have to be perfect, just as long as it's able to maintain enough pressure to allow for the gravity feed irrigation system to work. Now, maybe it's still running, maybe not. It's really difficult to tell because I had it running a few minutes ago, but oh yeah, there we go. So, if you look at this, it's got a bit of a drippy rate to it, really. There we go. See that? Now the only problem is when I lift it up higher, it stops because it needs to, the water actually would have to be higher for it to maintain a constant pressure. Now, this will keep flowing until the container, the vessel that I have it in, is empty. So it'll slowly water my garden and do it like a professional irrigation system. And all I have to do is, since the other end of this line runs from this water bottle here, is I have to pressurize the water bottle. And I don't have to maintain pressure. Maintaining pressure would probably be even better. But if I use a rubber stopper from like one of those Uber places and jimmy in, let's say, one of these into it, or an electric compressor, it becomes so much easier. If I'm using an actual electric compressor air pump to pressurize this vessel, I can hook it up to a relay. The relay can interface with a microcontroller. Again, here's the Arduino where it comes in handy. And there you have it, automated irrigation system. So, for those of you who think that gardening is real hard, let's actually give you a tour of what's inside the garden. Okay? That's mustard lettuce. There's a garlic clove in there. That's a yam. I don't know how the yam will do, but what the heck? It was already pretty much going to get thrown in the garbage anyway. So you see a bit of green in there. That's because there's a couple of random sprouts. I actually took some seeds that weren't germinating and just randomly sprinkled them about and mixed them in. And there's a parsnip seed floating somewhere in there. That's probably it, kind of offset from the sage that I have there. And next to the sage is lemon thyme. The interesting thing is, we had all sorts of spices and seasonings and stuff, and it's just been dumbed down to like a tiny menu, just small sampling of what there actually is. And so for that, I think we've been like, pretty much robbed of one of the better experiences in life. Because we have to eat their plastic this and their plastic that, and they have only 6 varieties, and the other like 50 varieties in nature, or whatever, however many there actually are, they just keep off the menu. So here we have tobacco seeds, lots of them actually, several different strains. So I can make hybrid strains. When I make seeds, chances are they'll be a hybrid because I'll put them all together, and I won't care which ones are producing the seed, just as long as the seed's there and we can get some tobacco plants out there, and so that we can get some fellow smokers growing their own tobacco and not paying up the ass for their habit. Because let's face it, there's a study in England actually which indicates that smokers cost the health system less money. Now, initially they cost the health system a little bit more, but because they die faster, in this comparison, the smoker was actually saving the healthcare system 25% of their healthcare costs. So for the system to turn around and say that I have to pay up the ass, you know, just in my household alone, $500 a month for smoking, which is a lot of money. It's a lot of money. I could lease a Mercedes for that. You know what? Fuck you, government. That's all I have to say.